The Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, "V'havedan et kol ha'adam l'kaf zchut." A person must judge other people favorably. We have to always go and look for a way to find merit, even if we see something which seems to be very strange or even wrong. We are not allowed to judge that person and think that he is a bad person. We have to try to find any way possible to find, just a better way of looking at it. We shouldn't jump to conclusions. And I think the following story illustrates this idea very, very well. Many years ago, there was a meeting at the house of the Ksav Sofer, who obviously was related to the Chassam Sofer. And at this meeting were gathered many of the Gdolim of the generation, and they had all come, and the Ksav Sofer, the house that had been set beautifully, it was a wonderful, wonderful meal, and many important Torah issues were discussed at that meeting. During the course of the meeting, one of the rabbis stood up, and he wanted to show everybody something very, very precious to him. And he reached into his pocket, and he pulled out a beautiful gold coin. And he said that this coin was a coin from David HaMelech, and it was a coin that's one of its kind, which the value was indescribable. No value could be placed on it. And he said that this coin had been passed from father to child, each generation. And he wanted to show everybody this coin, which was his yichus. It, showed him his lineage all the way back to David HaMelech. And the coin was passed around from rabbi to rabbi to rabbi. And each one exclaimed just how beautiful and how amazing this coin was. After a while, the owner of the coin asked for it back, and to everybody's utter amazement, it was gone. The coin could not be found. The air in the room, the temperature just seemed to drop. Everybody was quiet. After searching under the table, on the table, around the table, it couldn't be found. One of the rabbis got up and said, with all due respect to all the rabbis here, maybe each rabbi should just check his pockets. Maybe somebody had a weak moment, or it fell in by mistake. And each rabbi went and checked his own pockets, and the coin was not found. The rabbi then said, maybe what we did was not enough. As we know, we have to be clean in the eyes of God and in the eyes of man. Maybe it was not enough that each one of us checked their own pockets. Maybe none of us should leave here until each person is checked by somebody else. And the owner of the coin said, that's a wonderful idea. But the oldest of the rabbis there stood up and said, no, that's not respectable. We're all big rabbanim here, and it's not right to do such a thing. The Baal Abayis said, I'm sorry, but with all due respect, I'd like to suggest this is what we have to do. And this elderly rabbi said, I will not allow myself to be checked by somebody else. We're all great rabbis here. And of course you can understand already, suspicion started falling on this elderly rabbi. And as the air was settling, all of a sudden one of the waiters came running in with the coin. And he says, look, I found it. It was thrown out with one of the tablecloths when we were clearing the table. And the owner of the coin took it back and was very, very happy. They then turned to this elderly rabbi and said, you obviously didn't have the coin, so why were you worried about being searched? And the elderly rabbi smiled and said, I too, and he reached into his pocket, am from the family of the house of David, and I also have the exact coin, and I carry it with me everywhere. I was also going to show it to all of you, but after the owner of the coin said that his coin was one of a kind, not to be found anywhere else, I did not want to take away from his moment, and therefore I kept my coin in my pocket. But it is exactly identical to his coin. It's also been passed in my family from generation to generation. But how many of you would have believed me? And so we see that even sometimes when the circumstances seem to point in one direction, in one way, really there's a whole different answer. The Chafetz Chaim says that when a person, the same way, how far do you have to go? Chafetz Chaim says, how far do you have to go to try to find the merit for somebody else? He says, it's happened to all of us. We've lost our car keys, or our house key, or our wallet, and you try to begin to backtrack your steps to try to find it. and you look in the kitchen, in the living room, and under the carpet, and inside the couch in your bedroom. And sometimes you'll even go down to the basement or into your machzan, a warehouse or a place where you haven't been in a year, and you know it's not going to be there, but you just begin to search frantically anywhere and everywhere just in the hope that maybe you'll find it. You begin to think, I don't know, maybe a mouse came and took it down the stairs and into this basement. You begin to think of the craziest scenarios to try to find that key or that wallet. Chafetz Chaim says this is how far a person must go to search to try to find the merit for somebody else. And it's a very important quality that Hillel gives us in Pirkei Avos, that one must always look to be done as kol ha'adam l'kafschus. We must always try to judge people favorably and to look for the good in people. This isn't only when we see them do bad things, but even when we just meet people, the first time we meet them, we should judge them favorably. We shouldn't judge a book by its cover. It's human nature when we see another person that we automatically see, the negative in them and the bad in them. We have to understand that each person was created b'tzelem Elokim. Each person was created in the image of God Himself, and therefore a person can say, "B'shvili nivra ha'olam," the world was created just for me, and God would have created the world for each person as His only child. And therefore we have to make an extra effort, not only when things look bad, but even when we've never met the person, not to develop bad ideas about that person, but to always try to see the good in people. And if we're able to do that, people will see the good in us as well.